Hello and welcome to Bariatric Care, the podcast. Whew. Today we're going to be talking about being happy, happiness. Who doesn't want to be happy? And guess what? Regardless of what's going on in your life, I'll say regardless, but there are caveats. I'm going to grant you that. Regardless of what's going on in your life, for the most part, we can choose to be happy. There are tools and some skills you can learn for enhancing your happiness, and that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to specifically relate these tools for happiness to your bariatric lifestyle. So, today's topic, the first 6 hows of happiness applied to your bariatric lifestyle. So, let's go ahead and start. Here's what we're going to be covering today. First of all, what is this business of hows of happiness? Where did this come from? How did I come up with that phrase? Secondly, what are these hows of happiness? Actually, it turns out there are 12, according to this one person. And we're going to go over the first 6 today, which means, of course, you can probably guess the next week's episode of Bariatric Care, the podcast, is going to be the next 6 hows of happiness. And thirdly, we're going to talk about how do you apply these hows of happiness to your current lifestyle. Yes, we're going to talk about the bariatric lifestyle, but also, even if you've got things going on within your family, at your job that you don't like, in friendships, in different situations in your life that aren't really pleasant, how can you choose to be happy? And how can you cultivate more happiness within your life? So, good stuff all the way around. And I want you to listen specifically as I go through these first 6, and I'll ask you to do the same thing next week when we talk about these hows of happiness. Which ones of these speak to you the loudest? Which one really seems like, this is something maybe I need to work on or incorporate into my life? So let's go ahead, get started with the content today and talk about where this business and how did I come up with this phrase, hows of happiness, H-O-W, not H-O-U-S-E, the hows of happiness. Well, there's a book called The Hows of Happiness, and it's written by a woman named Sonja, S-O-N-J-A, Lyubomirsky. That's a tough one, and it's spelled not like it sounds. So I will put the link to her book in the show notes. But the long title of the book is The How of Happiness, a scientific approach to getting the life you want. Well, aren't we all about getting the life we want? Keep in mind, we are also responsible for creating the life we want. But in this book, the author talks about how do we, from a scientific basis, so this stuff is well researched, how do we incorporate and grow more happiness in our lives regardless of what's going on? So let's get started and talk about what these are. But let me tell you a little bit about the book itself. Here's what it says on Amazon. The How of Happiness is a comprehensive guide to understanding the elements of happiness based on years of groundbreaking scientific research. Well, we love that because we want to know that we're not just blowing smoke up anybody's rear end, right? We do that really well on our own most of the time. We can buy our own BS in a heartbeat. But this information from her book is based on scientific research. It's also, this is again from Amazon, it's also a practical, empowering, and easy to follow workbook, which I love too. Because when people, the authors, build the workbook right into the context and the content of the material, the book itself, you don't have to buy an extra workbook. So it's all built right in for you, which is very cool. And there are exercises and new ways of thinking, which is great too, because we can get real stuck in, well, it's this way, it's my way, or it's the highway. We have to have open minds. We have to learn new things in our lives if we want things to be different. And there are quizzes for understanding your individuality. So taking this information and applying it to your life. So again, like the whole weight loss process and the weight maintenance process. One size does not fit all. You've got to find the tools that work for you. It's kind of like the gotta do's that I have. Some people have, the water thing down so well. They've always been a great water drinker. Well, they don't have to track this on a gotta do 'em sheet. or have an accountability person. But maybe when it comes to meal planning or moving your body through exercise, you need more accountability. So as you listen to these hows of happiness, think about, what do I most need to do in my life? And which of these do I need most to cultivate? We're going to talk about that word. It's one of my very favorite words. All right. So her book is all about an effort to help us realize our innate potential for joy. Did you hear those words? Our innate potential for joy. So we all have the capacity for joy. We all have the possibility for joy. We don't all have joy, but sometimes it's because we tend to create our own misery. Yeah, it's true. Think about self-sabotaging behaviors, creating our own misery. All right, so we're going to look at, drawing from her years and her accumulation of scientific research with thousands of men and women, the How of Happiness is both a powerful contribution to the field of positive psychology and a gift to the people who have sought to take their happiness into their own hands. I am a person who takes happiness into my own hands. That doesn't mean that I expect to be woohoo happy all the time. I don't believe happiness is a constant state of being. I think that happiness is a way of looking at life. Happiness is something that we can incorporate into our lifestyle. In other words, we can choose to be happier on a consistent basis by choosing to look for the happiness. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. That didn't come from the author. And speaking of from the author, I have not read this book. How's that? But I found this information from another book, which I will also put in the podcast notes, because I love this other book, which is called The Philosopher's Notes, and it's by Brian Johnson. But he takes a little bit of stuff from a lot of different researchers and a lot of different scientifically researched information on making your life better. And this was one of the little chapters in his book. Now, I did look up and read some of the things from her book, and I, of course, downloaded the book. I've got to read it now, but I have taken a lot of this information directly from her. I will tell you what's from her and which things are my own thoughts. But let me tell you what the first 6 hows of happiness. So how am I going to make my life happier? Here are 6 things. The first 6, there are 12 that she notes in her book. And these are going to sound really familiar to you, because if you have listened to Bariatric Care, the podcast, for a while, then you will have heard some of these things. This is not new. And her book is absolutely not about bariatric medicine. But as a human being who is choosing to have bariatric surgery or who is going through a weight loss journey, all of these things apply to you too because of your humanness. We all want to be happier. I am going to apply these things she says on how to become happier to the bariatric lifestyle, but it can be applied, like I said earlier, to every area of your life. And lifestyle is all of the areas of your life. All right, so these first 6, expressing gratitude. That's a novel idea. Cultivating optimism. There's that word I love so much, cultivating. Avoiding overthinking. Oof, that one hits me hard. I'm an overthinker. And avoiding social comparison. Ooh, that one probably hits a lot of us really hard. Practicing acts of kindness. Nurturing social relationships. And developing strategies for coping. Okay, none of this is anything you've not heard before. You've heard it in different contexts and in relation to different areas of your life. But we're going to pull this in. We are calling these the first 6 hows, how to be happier, and applying them to your bariatric lifestyle. So let's start with number 1, expressing gratitude. I think this is super important to the bariatric lifestyle because, and you've probably noticed this yourself, there's a lot of, it's hard. It's so hard. Oh my gosh, this is so much harder than I thought it was going to be. Well, it is hard. Absolutely. This business, like Laura Preston says, the first year after post-op surgery as a post-op is like a full-time job. You've got the list from your dietitian. Maybe you're going by the gotta do them list. Maybe you've made up your own list of things you've got to do. But, paying attention to how much water you take in, paying attention to all the protein you have to get in, making sure you don't drink before or after, don't get, the bubbles, don't have the soda or the sparkling water, you stay away from the caffeine, get this amount of exercise, take the vitamins, take this vitamin at this time, wait this much time between vitamins. What vitamins do I take? It's a full-time job getting all of this down, right? So it is hard. I will grant you it's hard. Now, we can talk about it's being hard, but if we express our gratitude along with the reality that this is hard, we're going to increase and boost our level of happiness because we are acknowledging, we don't want to discount the reality that this is hard. And sometimes I'm sad and sometimes I'm angry and sometimes I'm very frustrated about all the things that I have to do. If we balance that with, let's talk about the gratitude related to this process, then we're going to be more balanced, right? And this is a me thing, not an author thing from this book. But what I know is that if we're able to balance our emotions, in other words, if our emotions, sadness, anger, frustration, are not so heavy and don't weigh things down, when that happens, we're not quite as happy, right? But if we balance that with something else like logic or gratitude or optimism, we absolutely will feel happier because our thoughts, our feelings, and our behaviors are all intertwined. So let's talk about ways to express gratitude during the post-op bariatric experience and the pre-op. It's a lot easier to express gratitude preoperatively than it is postoperatively sometimes because it is hard. All right, so let's talk about how about expressing. That means saying it out loud to another person, writing it down, keeping a list of things you're grateful for. Expressing gratitude. I'm so grateful to have this opportunity to get this stubborn weight off without surgery or without this medical weight loss program or however you're going about the business of losing the weight. I'm so grateful to be participating in this. I'm so grateful to have this opportunity. I'm so grateful to have an online social support arena where I can get assistance from other people who share this journey. I can share my victories. I'm so grateful that I can share my victories. I have so much gratitude for the fact that I can contribute in a positive way to the journey of other people going through this thing because I have these online social communities. These didn't exist back when I started the bariatric work that I do 20 years ago. You have an absolute beautiful community at your fingertips, literally. So express gratitude for that and maybe even chat in the group. Say, I'm so grateful that I have you guys to turn to. I'm so grateful that I have people who really understand what I'm going through and will celebrate with me. All right, celebrate the opportunity to have worldwide, and I do mean worldwide options for learning so many of the skills that are necessary to be able to keep this weight off. You've got a worldwide web. I have connections with my friends in New Zealand. I have connections with people in Australia. I have connections with people in England. You can have connections all and in different parts of Europe. You can have connections with people all over the world with whom you can gather information. There are researchers all over the world who will help you in learning how to set boundaries for yourself. And it's all online. How to be more expressive in sharing gratitude. How to learn some of the other skills, like how do I manage to deal with stress without eating? How do I deal with emotional eating? So you've got a worldwide web that can help you, providing you options to learn some of the things. Express your gratitude for that. I am so grateful that I'm able to learn these things without having to go to the library and look up the books and check them out like we used to have to do, right? It's all right here. Express gratitude for the people who show up in your life to support you in really healthy ways. Friend, I am so grateful that you asked me what restaurant is safe for me to eat at. Partner, I am so grateful that you're willing to keep some of my food triggers out of the house. Friends at work, I am so grateful that you let me know in advance that there are some things in the break room that I may not want to participate in or be triggered by. Kids, I am so grateful to you for being willing to go for walks with me. So express your gratitude for the people who show up in your life and are really supporting you, and express gratitude for the friends you have who love you enough to sometimes come to you with things you might not want to hear but need to hear. Friend, thank you so much for telling me about your concern that I've been slipping into old habits. I was somewhat aware of it, but you mentioning it to me really brought it to my forefront, and now I can do something about it. Gratitude, right? And maybe especially express gratitude to yourself. I am so grateful that I am taking healthy risks to participate in activities that I might never have had the courage to do before. I'm so grateful to myself for being willing to venture outside of my safety zone, which for a lot of people, staying overweight is a safety zone. It prevents them from having to try out new things or experiment with other jobs or meet new people. So it can be a safety zone. So give yourself a lot of gratitude when you are willing to go outside of that safety zone and go into those places where some really great magic can happen. Give yourself gratitude for taking my online class, Gain While You Lose. Give yourself gratitude for being part of the bigger bariatric care online community of support or whatever programs that you're involved in. So that's how you can, number one, increase your happiness by expressing gratitude. And you can do this in other areas of your life. Honey, I really appreciate that you sat down and watched this show with me because it's one of my favorite shows. I wanted to share it with you. Or, friend, I really appreciate you being there to listen tonight when I wanted to talk about how mad I was with my partner. Whatever it is. Thank your kid's teacher for sending you an email about how sweet your child is. Express your gratitude. You can increase your happiness no matter what's going on in your life, right? You can be really bummed out about losing a job, but still express gratitude for having friends to support you. Kind of see how that works? All right. Number two, how to increase your happiness. Cultivate optimism. And this again is from the book, Cultivating Optimism. Now, personally, I love the word cultivate. Felicia, who is part of the bariatric care support team, she was at a retreat that I did recently, and she used the word cultivate. Oh no, it was one of the other people, but Felicia uses it a lot also. But a woman used this word cultivate, and I'm like, I love that word. And the word cultivate comes from a Latin word meaning to till, right? Till means prepare soil. So we use the word cultivate now to prepare and work on something, like they used to till the land in preparation to plant the crops. So when we cultivate happiness, how do you prepare for and work toward having an optimistic attitude? Well, there are some ways that you can do that. You can use positive self-talk, right? Rather than using a lot of negative self-talk. So if I say, oh my gosh, I really struggled today and I'm such a loser, is that going to cultivate optimism for doing better tomorrow? Whereas if I say, again, being realistic, I really struggled today. Tomorrow, I have made plans by contacting my sponsor or by asking my friend to be a touchstone for me throughout the day. So I have hope for tomorrow to do better, right? We can go either way, but I will guarantee you negative self-talk is going to lower your level of happiness, whereas creating and cultivating optimism, even if you are upset with yourself, creating optimism by setting yourself up for success next time around. And another way to increase optimism, and this is for me, not from the book, is to absolutely refute and refuse negative self-talk. Now, we're not going to automatically have no more negative self-talk if it's a habit we've engaged in for a long time. But when you start becoming aware of, oh, I just said this really nasty thing to myself that I surely wouldn't say to my best friend, then we can say, you know what? I'm going to change that to something more optimistic. No, I don't like that I, overspent when I went shopping. I am going to inform, my partner who deserves to know about our joint budget, and I am going to work an extra shift to make up for that extra money that I spent. Increase your happiness by boosting your optimism, by talking more positively to yourself. Now, some other ideas for cultivating optimism are notice when good things happen. This is a great thing to do, especially if you have kids. Catch them in the act of doing something great, because a lot of times, we yell at kids and we correct them and we're constantly on their case. And sometimes when my grandkids are here, I'll say, listen, I have a compliment for you. So it's noticing good things, not only with other people, but within yourself. I just caught myself and stopped myself from using negative self-talk. I really feel good about that. And notice it as it happens and express gratitude. Way to go, me. Way to go. So notice when good things happen in yourself and around, and express gratitude for those. Expressing gratitude is one way to increase optimism. So these two things are going hand in hand so far, and increases your happiness, expressing the gratitude and cultivating the optimism. Remind yourself that setbacks are temporary, and getting back up and expecting good things. Like I said, I really blew it today. I really gave in to the whatever in the break room. I can do better. I can do better. I'm taking my snacks with me tomorrow in my measured portions, and I'm going to stay out of the break room. I can do better. So I'm acknowledging that I had a setback and that it's temporary, and that I can expect good things for myself in the future. And write down your wins. I'm going to give you a suggestion for a to-do this week, which is nothing but a positive. It's a total win. So hang on, we're going to get to that in just a minute. And another way to increase your optimism is expressing awareness of other people doing good things. Because when you see other people doing good things, you can feel good, feel happier, and remind yourself, I can do good things too. Watch me. All right. So attitude and action. Thinking about positive things generates optimism, and doing things and giving yourself credit for them also generates optimism. The third thing from the book, The How of Happiness, is avoiding overthinking and social comparison. This one speaks to me. Why? Because I have a lot of work to do in this. I've done a lot of work over the years, but this is one that still can hit me up and trip me up. Overthinking is a big, big thing for me. And if you're part of the bariatric world, I have an inkling that it is for you. And I have this inkling because I've worked in the field for 20 years. And I know the social comparison thing can be a real downer to happiness. So these are some things that maybe you have to work on. When it comes to overthinking, if you know you're ruminating, like you're thinking about, I don't want to go to the whatever tonight because I don't like how I look, and you think about that all the time, that's going to be a big downer on your happiness. Whereas if you call your friend and say, I can't get over myself, I just can't get over myself right now. And your friend says, get over yourself. You know what? You're not the center of attention. You're not the center of the universe. People aren't going to pay attention to what you're wearing. So get over yourself. Have somebody to put you in your place, because seriously, it's not about us really, usually, except to us. So if you're overthinking and you find that it's bringing you down, reach out to somebody. The antidote for being centered on self is to get out of self, meaning I'm going to focus on other people, other things. I'm going to get involved in doing something else so I get my mind off of myself. Because a lot of time our overthinking, now this is for me, not the book, our overthinking is about our own selves, right? Or, this is a good one too, and this is where I get tripped up. I get tripped up when I'm angry with somebody because I keep thinking about what they did, what they did, what they did. And all it does is bring me down. So I have a very, very good friend who knows this about me and who I can talk to and say, I'm doing that overthinking thing, and it's just making me angrier and angrier. And so she will remind me, you know, think about this, write about this, you know, journal about that. And then let's talk about it, because the that she wants me to journal about or think about has nothing to do with my anger toward this other person. So it gets me out of myself and off the anger toward that other person. And that increases my happiness when I'm overthinking to the detriment of my overall being and my happiness. So this social comparison thing, well, they lost more than I did in the same amount of time. They had the surgery the same week I did, and they've lost more. And, they had their surgery 2 years ago, and I had my surgery 2 years ago. And I've gained 15 pounds, and they haven't gained any. Social comparison, social comparison, social comparison. What does that do for your happiness? Because most of the time, we're not comparing ourselves to people that we think we're lording it all over. Ooh, I've lost more weight than they have, go me. That's not what we do. We look at the people who we assume are doing better in our lives in some way, whether it's financially, their relationship, their how they look, what they're wearing, what they're buying, whatever. And then we feel badly about ourselves. Is that a good way to spend your time or your thought or your energy? Is it going to boost your happiness or decrease your happiness? So this social comparison, be careful of how you feel when you scroll on social media. If you're scrolling on social media and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm not feeling so good about myself, get off social media. I paused there because I was having this thought. So I teach this class online, and we have over double the attendance that we have in this class right now than we've ever had in all the years. And I've been doing this a lot of years. And I'm so excited about that. And because I love the content of this class so much, that's why I'm so excited about it. And I love that more people are signing up for improving their life or their lifestyle or whatever it is. And then I had this thought, this really negative thought. And it was somebody told me about somebody who launched a whatever, and they had so many people sign up in just the first hour. And it really brought me down momentarily. But I caught myself and I said, that's not my path. That's not my journey. This is my journey. This is how I am choosing to do my part in this community. And this is a celebration for the people with whom I work, that more people are getting access to this. So I caught it in a hurry because it was an instantaneous lowering of my happiness. And I'm like, why would I do that to myself? I have a celebration. I have people to reach out to. I have a group that hopefully I can add something positive to their life. So I quickly pulled myself out of it and leveled up my happiness again. But we have to be careful because that was a social comparison and that did not do me well. All right. So when you start to perseverate on those negative thoughts, engage in some other activity. You want to distract yourself. Get your mind on something more positive. Call a friend. Ask, can I do anything for you today? Is there some way I can help you today? I just called to put a smile on your face or tell you that somebody's thinking about you. Get out of yourself. That's what we call it in the 12-step world. Get out of yourself. Do something for somebody else. Quit perseverating, right? And compare yourself to yourself because this can boost your happiness, right? Think about, what am I able to do today in my life that I wasn't able to do 6 months ago or a year ago? What positive changes have I made in my life? Now we're expressing gratitude, we're increasing optimism, and we are also avoiding negative social comparison. So it's such a win. And it's easy to see how you can increase your happiness. And I'm not even talking about any of the research on all of these things, but this woman who put this book together has a lot of research on this. So if you're interested in the facts and the science behind this, you can read her book, The How of Happiness. And I think it's going to be a good read. I ordered it, going to read it. We'll tell you more. All right, the fourth one that we're going to talk about today, and I love this, are practicing acts of kindness. Now you can do this in the bariatric world, And you can do it in the other areas of your life as well. And I encourage you to do random acts of kindness in every area, because regardless, when we do something that is helpful to another person, we're going to feel better too. There's always a win-win in these situations. When you do something that really is kind for another person, how do you not feel okay about yourself? How do you not express gratitude? I'm so grateful that I took the time to do something nice for this other person. I see what it meant to them, or I can tell that it was nice for them to know somebody was thinking about them. To me, this is such a gift. It's a very lonely world in many cases. So whether you do something for a stranger or somebody you know, to let them know, I'm thinking of you, or you matter, or let me help your burden in some small way. I think there cannot be enough good said about that, and it will absolutely increase your own level of happiness. So here's some ideas. Send a note by snail mail. Who gets snail mail anymore? It's a great thing when it happens. I got the nicest note earlier this week, totally unexpected, and it just brightened my day. And it was a random act of kindness by somebody else toward me. And I surely hope that it boosted their level of happiness, and I definitely thank them for that. And I felt instantly happier. It's like, wow, it is so nice just to know somebody thinks about you once in a while and you don't expect it. My daughter did a project for herself one year where she sent a snail mail letter every week to somebody different. I thought that was so cool. All right, here's other random acts of kindness. Call somebody who's going through a tough time. Call somebody who's going through a good time. Call somebody and just let them know, I was thinking about, your celebration of your whatever, your accomplishment. I know it was 2 weeks ago, but I'm still thinking about it. I wanted to let you know how excited I am for you. Or somebody's going through a difficult time, just send them a text or give them a call. I'm thinking about you and wanted you to know you're not alone. All right, donate your time. Donate your money to a food bank or some other charity. There's a site online called volunteermatch.com. And this is a great way to get out of yourself and boost your happiness, because a lot of these things are online. You can do something online. You don't even have to leave your house if that's difficult for you. Or you can do it by zip code, and they'll give you some activities that you can go participate in physically. And so it's a great thing, because if you're feeling sorry for yourself, or if you're just like, I'm bored, or whatever it happens to be, then you can get out there and do some kind of volunteer work. Good thing. I'm chuckling because I was thinking, well, maybe you're on probation and you have to do some community service. Check on volunteermatch.com. All right. How about this one? Help somebody before they ask. Maybe you know somebody who's going to move and they need help packing up their boxes, and say, hey, I was thinking I'd like to come over and help you pack up some boxes. Is there a time that would be good for that? So just help somebody before they ask. Pay someone a genuine compliment. This is a great thing to do. And isn't it fun if you're out and about and somebody says, you know what? Here's one that happened to me. And it was just interesting because I was in downtown Atlanta and I needed gas, and it was in the evening. So that wasn't wise of me to begin with. So I stopped at this gas station, and a guy came up and asked me for money. And I'm like, okay. So that gas tank wasn't working. So I scooted down the hill on fumes to another gas station. I'm filling the car, and another guy starts coming toward me, and I'm like, ah. So I go to get in my car, and the person could tell I was a little nervous. And they said, no. He said, I just wanted to tell you, you rock short hair. And I was like, oh, that was such a nice thing, right? So give somebody a compliment, but make it a genuine one. If you're in the checkout lane, or if you're walking through the airport, or wherever you are, and you see something, you're like, wow, that's really attractive, or that's very becoming, or whatever it is, let them know, right? Leave a kind note on the windshield of a car. Doesn't have to be anything. You can even buy these things and stick them on a car. Just wanted to say, have a nice day. Not going to hurt anybody. Donate some clothes. Go through your closet. Donate some clothes to somebody else who's in the bariatric process, who needs some temporary clothes because they're losing weight quickly. Or take them to a local shelter where there are people who need some. Thank a service member. Such a great thing to do. Thank someone who shared a helpful meal tip with you. Maybe you're like, how do I get some protein snacks? And somebody reached out to you and said, I heard you mention at the support group you needed some, suggestions for helpful protein snacks. Here are a few. Or you could share a few with other people. Random acts of kindness both ways. Post a helpful bariatric tool you use on social media, on some support page. So you can do random acts of kindness. Or maybe somebody you know is struggling with regaining. You just reach out to them and say, you know what, this is temporary, or a stall, right? Newbies are really concerned when they hit a stall. Listen, just wanted to reach out to you, tell you this too is going to pass. Can make a huge difference in somebody's day. So random acts of kindness. So the fifth how to happiness, how to increase your happiness, is nurture social relationships. Well, there's a ton of research on this. A lot of people are talking about these blue zones in the world where aging people, where people live to be a much older age. Their average lifespan is longer than some other places. And so they're studying these blue zones where they have a lot of older people. And one of the things that's consistently emerging from the research is the social relationships. So find a social relationship. I know Laura Preston has a wonderful women's organization that she has started and run. The Bariatric Care Support Group is another great social organization, because these home groups, as I like to call them, these home support groups, you get to know people and you can ask them, listen, you talk a lot about this or this or this. Could you give me some suggestions for that? But nurture these social relationships. Here's a great question to ask somebody, which is maybe an act of kindness, but also a great way to nurture a relationship. How was your day? How was your day is such an important question. And when I talk to people who are not in a relationship, a lot of them say, what I really miss or would like is for somebody to just ask me how my day was, right? So be that somebody for somebody else. How was your day? And if you need somebody to ask you, reach out to your friends and say, I would really love it if once in a while, would you just ask me how my day was? Because I miss knowing that there's somebody at the end of the day who really cares. So that would be a great thing that you can do. Ask how you can help somebody new in the bariatric world. That's a great way to nurture a social relationship. Maybe there's somebody new on your group, your bariatric group, and you're like, I think I would really like that person. So nurture the relationship and ask them questions about themselves. Or maybe you're on a bariatric group online and you find out that somebody doesn't live too far from you. And I've seen this happening in the bariatric care group or at the retreats that I do. People realize they don't live that far apart from each other, and then they start getting together. Nurture social relationships. They not only increase your happiness, but they increase your longevity. Nurture social relationships in your bariatric world that are going to nurture your goals of living a healthier life. Would you like to go for a walk with me? Would you like to go kayaking? How about if we went and, went bowling or did something physical? So that would be a great way to nurture a social relationship. And you could even do that for a group of bariatric people in your area. Oh, the possibilities. Oh, the possibilities. Maybe volunteer to be an accountability person for somebody. That's a way to nurture a relationship. Maybe be in a club where you send recipes to each other that are healthy and nutritious. And maybe you have a group of people where you get together every week and everybody brings a healthy, bariatric friendly part of the meal, like a potluck. All right. Ask if a person you love would like a listening ear with no attempts to fix them or their problem. Hey, listen, I heard you talking about this struggle you're going through. Would you like me just to listen? Could I just be there for you? Nurture those relationships. Nurture the relationships with the people in your home. Often we treat the people in our home worse than we treat anybody else. Nurture those relationships. And maybe you need to reach out and ask a bariatric friend to help you. Maybe you're struggling with something. Encourage others in the community to avoid social comparisons. So maybe that's a way to nurture social relationships by, giving some helpful suggestions and opening a dialogue about that topic. And here's a biggie. And this is scary for a lot of people, but let somebody know when you see them engaging in a self-sabotaging behavior. We've been in this group together for the last year and a half, and I just really enjoy you, and I like when, you share your wisdom and your advice, but I want to be honest with you and tell you I'm really concerned because lately I hear you blah, 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 blah. That is nurturing a social relationship. I'm not coming to you with judgment. I'm coming to you with concern. Is there any way I could be a help to you? So there you go. All right. That's 5 out of the 6 we're covering today. And the last one is developing strategies for coping. In all of the work that I do, I have a list by some researchers who talk about skills for maintaining weight loss, and developing strategies for coping is one of those things. I call it an emotional gotta do 'em. So when it comes to your bariatric world, so many people regain when it comes to, oh, life is stressful. Oh, what happened that you regained? Well, life happened. My parents are sick, my this or that, or this or that. Life is stressful and it always will be. Life will always be life. And if you're an emotional eater in response to stress, well, you need to learn some strategies for coping with stress that aren't going to involve food, right? So you can incorporate a lot of these things, right? You can ask somebody for help and then you can express gratitude and that's going to boost your happiness. And when you figure out, oh, I could journal or call a friend or get up and go for a 5-minute walk when I'm feeling this way instead of eating, you're going to boost your optimism because now you know that you can do something that previously had been difficult. All these things are going to increase your happiness. So the hows to happiness, ooh, we're talking about them, right? Learning to prevent emotional eating is developing a healthy coping skill. As I talk about all the time, you're not going to learn most of these things in bariatric treatment center, the how-to with the coping skills. So you're going to have to learn them on your own. Bariatric care, by the way, great place to learn healthy coping skills. All right, developing healthy coping skills. Are you developing a habit of packing healthy snacks to take to work? Are you taking your lunch with you in pre-portioned serving sizes? Have you learned that strategy, that coping skill to have something with you so you don't just have to go to the drive-thru because you had no other choice because you were so hungry? Learn the skill of being prepared. Have you asked for help with meal planning? That's a skill, a strategy for coping with life after bariatric surgery. Are you actively, here's a good one. We are in September, my friends, which means October, November, and December come next, and they're full of food holidays. So are you actively preparing now? And if you're listening to this at any other month, it doesn't matter because there's food holidays all the dang time. Tuesday could be a food holiday. So are you actively preparing for the holidays or for events that are coming up that are surrounded typically around food? Are you making your own personal protection plan? I have one of those for you on my website, ConnieStapletonPhD.com, that you can download and make to fit your own lifestyle. Having a plan for protection will increase your happiness, and following through with it will not only give you reasons to express gratitude, it will help increase your optimism, and it will teach you that you've learned a healthier skill for coping. And look at how much happier you're going to be. These things are brilliant. And are they available to you? Of course they are, because every single one of these things is within your own control. You can do every one of these things. Yeah, you're going to have to put some effort into it, but you know what? I am all about the D word, doing. Are you working to overcome self-pity moments? Oh, I've been trying so hard and I'm just at the stall. We all have self-pity moments. I've been having one for about 2 days now, trying to get over myself. And actually, I've been doing a really good job of it throughout the day. It's kind of coming back to me, which just tells me I need to spend time and figure out what is my real problem here. And then I can work through what the real problem is. But when you notice you're having self-pity or somebody else is like, get over yourself, have you learned coping skills to get beyond the self-pity? A lot of tools for coping are gratitude, optimism. Are you learning to set healthy boundaries? There's a skill for coping. So are you doing what you need to do to increase not just your happiness, but your protection, your safety as a bariatric patient? So as I went through these 6, and let me refresh your memory: expressing gratitude, cultivating optimism, avoiding overthinking and social comparison, practicing acts of kindness, nurturing social relationships, and developing strategies for coping. Which one of those things really spoke to you and stuck out to you? Because maybe you're really good at some of these areas and you don't put a lot of effort into them. Now, I mentioned that I found this list in a book called A Philosopher's Note by Brian Johnson. And one of the things that he says about this book is, he says, one of the coolest points that the author makes in this book is the fact that as we decide what happiness practices to focus on, we want to avoid the shoulds and pick the ones that really inspire us. Why? Well, we're so much likely to stick to the intrinsic goals that have deep personal meaning for us. So even though you might get inspired by all of these things, focus on the ones that really, really light you up, not the ones you think you should do. Maybe you think you should be all about acts of kindness, but maybe it's the social comparison thing that you know you really need to work on. So don't get overwhelmed by, oh my God, there's so much to do. So there always is so much to do, right? But focus on just increasing your own happiness. If there's an area that's bringing you down, focus on that and putting some effort and some doing into that area and enjoy the benefits of increased happiness and a better, healthier post-op life. So here's some take-home messages, and the thing that I want you to do is just a win-win. There's no downside to this. I'm calling it a +1. So every time you hear yourself expressing gratitude, every time you hear yourself or feel yourself or behave in such a way that increases your optimism, give yourself a check one, right? A +1 in a column, right? It could be mentally, it could be on a piece of paper, whatever it is. Give yourself a +1. Don't subtract if you're negatively talking to yourself. We're not subtracting. All we're doing is recognizing when we do these things that help us in our bariatric journey and help us increase our happiness. So if you do a random act of kindness, give yourself a +1. If you do something and you recognize and you change your thoughts to optimism, give yourself a +1. If you do something that's nurturing a social relationship, give yourself a +1. If you spend 15 minutes looking at how do I set healthy boundaries, give yourself a +1. And then the goal is to see if you can have more +1s each day. So there's nothing that you have to do that's going to hurt you in this or bring you down or cause you shame or hopefully, right? Some of us can find ways to do that no matter what. But do the +1s and encourage your children to do this too and the people in your life. Secondly, I'm going to encourage you to pick a random act of kindness each day and then report it as an expression of gratitude. We're not supposed to go out and proclaim our random acts of kindness. I get that. But pick one person and say, I have an assignment to do this. Or just give yourself an extra +1 and put it a gold star there instead. Just acknowledge that you've done a random act of kindness. Now, all of these things, I didn't set up my bariatric care progress journal to reflect all these things, but in some ways they do. So in the show notes, you can find the link. It's on Amazon. It's called Bariatric Care Progress Journal. And it has a thing for you to fill out every day where it hits on all of these things. So you can do this every single day and you will absolutely develop a healthier way of life, a healthier lifestyle, a healthier thinking, and you'll increase your happiness. Who knew? So here's some invitations for you. Please encourage other people to listen to this because this information can be applied to every area of your life. And if you're a bariatric person, well, of course, it's going to help you in that regard because we focused all this on bariatrics. And then sign up for the Complete Bariatric Care Program. We've got a lot of people in there doing a lot of good work and a lot of people in the community who are kind of the ambassadors of the program. So it's www.bariaftercare.com. And remember, we're talking about your health. It's your responsibility. It's this day, it's every day. So we're talking about your health, your happiness, your way of life, your overall lifestyle. We're working all the time on the Bariatric Care podcast to improve your overall life. So thanks for spending your time with me. I very much appreciate it, sincerely. An expression of gratitude to you. And next week, we'll go through the other 6 Hows of Happiness from the book, The How of Happiness, a scientific approach to getting the life you want. All right, friends, thank you so much again for joining me, and I will see you next time. Make it a great one. Bye-bye.